My front tire is just about had it, so I am going to be changing it today. I'm going to be able to lift up the front end just a little bit more. And you don't have to lift it up too much, but the idea is that it'll just move up a bit like this. And now, with this, I should be able to work on the wheel a little bit better. Remove the sensor here. This is, I believe, the ABS sensor. And I'm using a 4mm Allen key to get rid of it. One thing I like to do, I like to put the bolt back to where I found it. But this is a 19mm, and I got it on Amazon. I think it was like $7. It's kind of expensive, but you do need it for this bike, so go out and buy this. But before we get that, we have to get these two bolts. Might be a little bit tight. If it is, just get a breaker bar. So let's get, you don't have to fully remove them. You can just kind of leave them hanging. Rotate this. Make sure you hold the wheel and the bike if you can, if you have a friend to hold it as well. Oh, I believe now I can just, yep, I can slide it out. That's all there is. If you hold it up here to take some of the weight off the axle, you should be able to kind of slide it out. Super easy. So always inspect your axle. I noticed there's some grease, not much, but yeah, definitely it's been in the bike for a while. So we're gonna take this out and we're gonna re-grease it. 12mm socket, and I'm gonna use my breaker bar. Usually these are on pretty tight, and I'm holding the bike as well. Make sure, wow, that is pretty tight. Now I'm gonna get this top one, and this is something that annoys me always. And I've noticed this in Yamahas. My FJR had something very similar. It's they put the reflectors in a way that you can't get to the bolts, but this one's a little bit better because you can slide it to the side. But on the other one, I actually had to remove it just to get to the bolts. Just an annoyance. I know it's not a lot. Use your breaker bar. I prefer it just using like, that's one thing you need to do is not hang the calipers, because the brake lines, you don't want to like stretch them or do anything. So here we go. Here's so the reflector also holds the sensor. So remember that there's a little loop here, and when you put it back, make sure that it goes around, and then, so that's just a good way of routing it. So another thing to remember, the line for the ABS, the top bolt actually has a plate that holds it as well. Kind of important, so don't forget that. This cable needs to be routed properly before you put everything back. Let's go ahead and remove the caliper. But these are 12mm. I'm just gonna move it forward. There we go. Taking the bolts, putting the nut back on there, and just holding it. I'm going to do the same for the other side. This is actually a very easy wheel to remove. And this is the spacer that goes on the right side, sorry. And the spacer, if I turn the wheel, belongs here. We're going to have to lubricate all of this. So it's a pretty interesting wheel system that the Tenere has. It's spoked, but the spokes are on the inside, so it still uses tubeless tires. I much prefer this sort of system to the tubes. I'm not into the tube stuff. I have an Africa Twin from '95 with tubes, and I hate the idea of changing tubes because I do mostly like just regular riding. The sensor for the ABS is right here. You can actually take out this plate so you don't lose it and just put it on the ground. We're going to like inspect this and see if there's any grease. There's actually like plenty of grease, it looks. And on this side, you have the spacer. We're gonna clean this spacer as well and then lube it. So this is what you're gonna need for changing the tire. It's a pretty simple thing. It's tire levers. There's different types. This one is my first tire lever. I don't recommend it. If you can get this, just might as well get one of these with the nice handle, and it's a little bit sharper here, and it seems a lot better. And there's ways of protecting your rim as well so you don't scratch it, but you know, for me, I just don't care too much about that. I'll just touch it up if I scratch it. And you're going to need this. You don't need it, it's not required, but it's got a valve stem remover, and I like to remove it before I do this. It's so much easier. It's just water with some soap, and it's got like a brush, and you can just kind of brush on your tire. But this is a long tire breaker handle thing. So the current tire I have is a TKC70. I believe is a 110. Yeah, 110/80. And then I have this one, TKC70, same tire, one size smaller, 190/19. Valve stem remover. And you can start hearing the air just gush out. You don't need to do this in the beginning, but I like to do it. Just kind of get some soap. And I'll just take another tire lever. I'll just keep doing this. It's a fairly soft tire, so... Ooh, slipped. Use another tire lever, like this, and hold your feet. See if you can cram it. Still doesn't want to... Once you start doing that, you can just go all around and do that. There we go. And you can see it's actually pushing it down quite a bit. You can see that the bead is actually separating here. There we go. That goes the bead. That's it. So once the bead lets go, that's pretty much, you don't have to do it all around. Sometimes you do. Sometimes it's so stuck on. Now we have to reverse it. Right, I think it is coming off, so just gotta push it down. And there we go. There goes the bead. And both sides are off the rim. Make sure you start on the disc brake part because it's going to help you. So if you put the tire lever kind of facing up with the spoon side, you put it here, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult in the beginning. So let's see if I can do it. Get the tire lever over the rim. So there's these things called rim savers that you can buy, but I don't have any. So I'm going to put this piece of plastic, and I hope that it'll work. So you just put the tire lever here, and you work it up. What I like to do is like take the lever and like to put it behind that. So now I'm going to come here and I'm going to do the exact same thing, and hopefully we should be able to start pulling it up. There we go. So on this side I didn't even put the rim saver, which is bad, but like more plastic out of something like this, and just kind of put it on there. So now this is the part where we have to remove it entirely from the rim. I'm going to use this big lever, and what I do is I put it from this side onto here. Okay, there we go. So this part is a little important because you have to figure out the direction that your tire goes. It is specific. So what usually happens is there's an arrow pointing to the direction. So right there you have your arrow pointing where it should be going. We have the direction that the tire is going, and there's a dot over there that designates where the heaviest part is. I'm going to put my stem towards it. This stuff, just get it all over, even on the inside. Tire is going to rotate like this. Take the old tire, put it down, then put this on top, and now we should be able to start pushing it in. You can, and that's one side. Take your tire lever, make sure you have your dot pointed the right way. If you don't, then you can balance it afterwards. I usually use my feet. Good tire levers are important here. So I have 3 that are good. I put my feet on one side. There we go. The last parts are the hardest to do. Okay, so at this point, this gets very hard. So what I do is like I push down on here, break that bead, and then work that up. Wow, that was the easiest tire change I have ever done. Man. So here's my stem. We're gonna put it back in. Then take your stem tool. And we're gonna fill this with air. I have my compressor. So the important thing is that you want this to seal. And normally on tires, it gives you 2 pops, 1 per side when it goes into the bead. In the rear tire I just installed on the Super Tenere, I put the tire in and it never pops, so I was kind of worried. But if that happens to you, what you want to do is inflate it to like 50 pounds and then just put it back down to the normal pressure. Don't put your finger in between. There we go. I think that's it. I don't think it does a big pop on this. Maybe it's because of the way the spokes are. I don't know. We'll take a tire pressure tool and see how much air is in it. And that's how you install a tire on a Yamaha Super Tenere. For some reason, the tires on this S10 are easy to put in. I've never experienced such easiness. Normally, I'm struggling a lot more. So this time, I think I did it in record time. Axle here, and I have some grease. A little bit of grease on the axle before I put it in. Sometimes these spacers, they just get worn out. This one, it's not that nice, but it's quite a bit of, it almost seems like rust, but it's just like grunge. And we have that sensor here. This you don't have to really grease much, but I do like to clean it. And what I like to do is I like to take some grease and kind of like fit it in the spacer inside here. Just kind of like just push it in a bit. Slide this in. Okay. So at this point, you're gonna have to twist the wheel and then just kind of lift up. My axle, I'll put it here, and then with one hand, I'll lift it up. And okay, so that's good. It's kind of like on there. There we go. So it was a twisting and lifting motion. With this axle on here, make sure that everything is okay. So this might be hard to see, but this plate floats on here, but there's this part that attaches to the fork. So if you were to put this on the outside, it would be wrong, I believe, because this does not want to move. So that's what you want. I believe this is the correct way. And of course we have our sensor here. We're going to put that in here. And I had to buy this tool specifically. And this is you have to torque it down to the correct specs because this is a very important bolt. and torque it down. You should also inspect your brake lever, your brake pads. Make sure they are okay. Let's get this. Well, there's the bike. Brand new front and rear tires.
They're pretty good, except for one little problem. That little guy right there. He is nipple number 5.
Well done.
Kind of stuck here. The cops won't bother me.